All right. Let's go ahead and get started. So good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday Times Roundtable, where each week we engage in conversation around current global issues, trends, problems, and opportunities that are of interest to you. Our weekly Tuesday Times Roundtable is made possible through a formal partnership with the New York Times. This partnership also brings a New York Times guest speaker to FIU every year. And guess what? He's coming soon. So stick around till the end of our time together. We want to tell you more about that. The partnership also provides you guys, FIU students, faculty, and staff, free digital access to the New York Times newspaper. I am Sherry Beeson, your host and Senior Program Coordinator in the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. With me is Anna Prado. There she is, waving at you guys. She's also with the Office of Global Learning. She's helping facilitate today's session, and she's going to be monitoring the chat. Behind the scenes, but never far away, is Taylor Sines, our communications guru, who sends you announcements regarding all things global and your Global Learning Medallion newsletter, The Globe. If you haven't subscribed to that yet, you probably want to do it soon. If you're just now joining us, and we do have more joining us, I'd like to remind you to keep your mic muted during the presentation. If you feel comfortable doing so, we'd love for you to turn on your camera, but we understand if you don't. We are recording today's session, so feel free to post your questions in the chat. Anna and I will be monitoring that, and I believe our hosts will as well. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you today's guest hosts. First is Dr. Hilary Landorf, our Executive Director of the Office of Global Learning Initiatives, and she oversees FIU's university-wide initiative, Global Learning for Global Citizenship. Hilary is also an Associate Professor in the School of Education and Human Development and leader of FIU's Master of Science degree program in International and Intercultural Education. Landorf's expertise centers on visioning, developing, designing, and implementing policies and practices of global learning efforts in higher education. Her latest book, Making Global Learning Universal, Promoting Inclusion and Success for All Students, was published in 2018 and co-authored with Stephanie Dosher and Japhus Hardrick. When Hilary is not working or mentoring her students and staff, she plays tennis, goes for walks, and spends time with her wife and their cat, Tashi. Now I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Erica Caton. She's the Director of Educational and Faculty Development at the Center for Advancement of Teaching, or CAT, as we like to call it, here at FIU. Erica is a native born of Bronx, New York, and first-generation college student. Dr. Caton's professional experience spans 25 years of working with adolescents and young adults in community-based agencies, colleges, and universities. She resigned from her position as Director of Advising in the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Kentucky to pursue and obtain her doctorate from the University of Louisville, University of Kentucky Joint Program in Social Work. Upon completion of her doctoral studies, Dr. Caton relocated right here to Miami and joined the staff of CAT. She is also working on publishing 2 pieces, one of which is Culturally Responsive Teaching in Medical Education. Dr. Caton is a thoughtful, compassionate, and collaborative professional, and while she looks forward to her return to social work practice, she enthusiastically embraces every opportunity to support and encourage others whether faculty, staff, or students, to achieve their educational, professional, and life goals. We're so glad to have both of you with us today. Now, please take it away, Hilary and Erica.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks so much. And thanks for spending your lunchtime with us today. And of course, for your interest in involvement in global learning. What brings Erica and I together today is our shared commitment to helping all of you get the most out of your FIU education, both inside and outside the classroom, helping you develop your passions, feel supported and safe while doing so. So to get us started, I'd like to ask for you to do something. You have 30 seconds to pick something up, either in your room or in the vicinity you are. Pick something up that is yellow, and you're going to show it to us. 30 seconds to get something that's yellow.
Yellow, yellow, yellow.
Okay, who would like to volunteer what they have? Anna Prado, what do you have there?
So I am never far away from a sticky notepad. I buy them in bulk from BJ's, as many as possible all the time. I have some in my purse. I have some in my glove compartment, because you never know when you're going to need to take notes on an important experience, an important person, somebody's contact. I actually just wrote one down for Erica, because I may be emailing you about something soon. You know, success at the college level is all about all of these connections. So
thank you. Thank you. Melanie Rodriguez, what do you have?
Sure. So hi everyone. So I also had yellow sticky notes. I'm the exact same way. I buy so many of them, so many different colors. As you can see, like right next to me, I have all these different colors as well. And so I have them like all over my computer. Anything that I need to remember, I write it down and then I transfer it out somewhere else.
Thank you, Melanie. And Melanie Perez.
So I actually have a yellow flower because I always like keeping like vibrancy around my workspace. It makes me happy when I'm just really stressed. So it's something to just look at and give me good vibes, I guess.
Thank you. Vanya.
Hi, nice to meet you. Well, what I have is actually this is what a teacher sent us home. It's a package and it's yellow. We were supposed to use it in class today, so we'll see what it has inside later.
Oh, you don't know what it has inside?
No, she told us not to look at it. So.
Ah, okay.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's pretty neat, actually.
Anyone else would like to share?
I had a banana.
Banana. Are you going to be eating the banana, Erica?
I should, because I force myself. It's not my most favorite fruit, but they're good for you. So I try to eat one every now and again, but I really have to choke it down. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for sharing.
Anyone else? Oh, wait, someone else.
Yeah. Oh, someone else. Yes.
I don't have anything yellow. I don't have anything yellow in my house, but I have a shirt. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yellow. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And Lihana came on the screen. Did you have something you wanted to share that's yellow? No? Okay. Sorry.
Okay, Erica.
All right. Thank you all so much for indulging us in that activity. Obviously, you spent a lot of time on Zoom meetings, and so our goal was to maybe kick this off with something a little fun and different. And so thanks for playing along with us. As Sherry so wonderfully introduced me, I am the Director for Educational and Faculty Development at the Center for the Advancement of Teaching. And our primary focus, we are an office of about 8 people. Our job is to help faculty tap into the most innovative, new, effective, evidence-based teaching practices. What you may or may not know is that most of us go to graduate school and we spend a very long time becoming content experts. So we know our discipline pretty much backwards and forwards. However, whether or not we learn to teach is something that we kind of do on the job. So I like to tell people it's kind of the worst on the job training because you're learning it as you go. And so our office sole purpose is to help faculty to navigate and build those skills to deliver courses that are engaging, effective, and that will lead to your success and engagement, as Hilary said, both in and outside the classroom. So why am I here teaming up with Global Learning? You may or may not know, over the last year, despite COVID and remote learning and all of what's been happening, is that the university, our president, Dr. Rosenberg, our provost, Dr. Furton, have been adamant about our institution's recommitment, rededication to diversity, equity, and inclusion. From that recommitment has surfaced the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, whose purpose will be to increase not only student success and to achieve equitable outcomes across all of our student populations, but to create a stronger and more present sense of belonging and well-being at the institution for faculty, staff, and students. So over the next couple of years, what I would hope is that you will begin to see programming, events, more diversity in our faculty and staff at all levels, entry all the way through our executive levels. More and more diversity, more and more opportunities where you see folks in positions of leadership, more and more opportunities for you as students to speak out about what you need to feel safe and successful and a sense of belonging and well-being at FIU. Why do I start this discussion in that way? Because the other thing that you will see is that your departments, like Global Learning, like Honors, like the College of Arts and Sciences or Carter or SIPA, you will see them also engaging in more discussions, more events and activities around the topics or the issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I had the pleasure of collaborating with my colleagues in Global Learning to kick off this session and letting you know to watch for those opportunities to take action, to get involved around these issues, and then to also be here to listen so that I might take notes on things that I hear here that will affect the decisions that are made at the highest levels in terms of what your needs are. So every now and again, you're going to see me taking notes. I'm not writing anyone's name down. So feel free to share as honestly and openly and candidly as you can. But what I am very much looking forward to is hearing your experiences in your global learning courses, but at the institution as a whole, and how I can then communicate that information back to our campus leaders. Thanks, Hilary.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to get started with a little bit of a scenario. Sherry, if you could put the scenario up on the screen, and let's take a moment to read through this scenario on our own. Okay, Sherry, would you like to read it aloud now that we've gotten a chance to read it on our, by ourselves?
Sure. An undergraduate student attends a large, racially and ethnically diverse university. During a class break, she hears some of her friends from that college making fun of two students from a specific ethnic group from theirs. They are making jokes about the two students' accents and let me see if I can see this word, food they are eating. Some students in the class who see this seem uncomfortable, some seem oblivious, while others are laughing. The instructor of the class is present at this particular encounter. These encounters happen frequently at this university, and many students from minority groups have experienced them. The university has an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, whose mission is to provide holistic student support, lead efforts that cultivate a welcoming and inclusive campus community, and foster positive interactions between individuals of diverse races, cultures, identities, perspectives, and experiences.
Thank you, Sherry. So to get into this, I want to ask you, what could the instructor, we see there's an instructor there in this situation, what could the instructor have done in the moment to address this situation? And any of you, please feel free to either unmute your, your speakers or put a response in the chat. Again, what could the instructor have done? Yes, Vanya.
Immediately what comes into mind as a person that has been in that spot where people just made fun of them for any specific characteristic that she had in her face. I would say that the best outcome would be that the instructor stop the class, just stop the class and focus on what's happening in that moment and ask, what's happening here, what are they doing, and talk to the students, which I bet they're probably gonna say, oh, we're just laughing about another joke, in which he would just have to imply that it's wrong and they should stop, or if not, there will be punishment. I think that's the best outcome.
Okay, so thank you, Vanya. So if I hear you, if I understand you, you're saying the instructor should intervene and use it as a teachable moment. Other responses, what could the instructor have done? Now remember, this is in a class break that the instructor is seeing this situation, but that's, Vanya, I mean, that could, you know, the instructor could still use it as a teaching moment. Other responses?
Well, I know from experience, I know that a lot of professors, they try to establish that the classroom is a safe space and a safe zone. So I would think that even though the class is in a break, that wouldn't stop being a safe zone or a safe space. So I think like kind of Vanya would, like Vanya said, that the professor would probably like step closer, ask, you know, maybe ask the student that's uncomfortable, like, are you okay? What's going on? Do you feel comfortable? And then if they speak up and they say something, or if they don't, maybe the professor can reach out to the students that are making the other student uncomfortable and be like, what's going on? Like, and if they are able to finally admit that they're making fun of them, and then try to reach to the root, like why, what's the purpose of this? And then if it doesn't stop there, then it would have to go into like a form of kind of like a disciplinary way of I would need you to step out of the class if you can't be respectful of all people here. Like, this is a safe space, this is a safe zone, and I wouldn't agree with, you know, someone having to take that kind of action against someone else. And then but I think it would have to be in a way that it's also not like hurting the person. Like, there's a reason why people do that, you know. Maybe refer services or resources at, you know, at FIU of like, okay, if you're doing that, if you're acting that way, if you're making fun of people, there's a reason why you're doing it. You know, maybe you need help yourself, maybe you're going through something. And so the professor can write out information about the FIU resources in going and getting help.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. So you put a lot more detail into what Vanya said in saying that this teacher should take action, use it as a teachable moment by taking action, both to make sure that the students who are the victims or objects are made to feel safe, and that the students doing the aggression are that something happens there. Erica, would you like?
Yeah, sure. Our next question, and is it, pronounce your name for me, please? Is it Charis?
It's Charis, but
Charis.
yes.
Charis. Okay. So Charis actually started us on this path. My question for you is, how do you think the students who are being made fun of feel in this moment? How do you think those students feel?
So I've been in this experience myself, not at FIU, but growing up. So it's kind of, you feel a bit of humiliation. You kind of try to ignore it, like it's not happening. But then as it starts catching on, and you start noticing a bigger crowd, if it starts forming, you feel like you just kind of want to like shut it all off, to the point where you might even consider like just leaving or just walking away. And thinking that that's kind of the solution. For myself, I've tried, as an adult now, I would, as I work with kids now, I try to be that person that, makes sure that the student doesn't walk away from the situation and accept that that's okay. I try to make it a way to be able to grow, and then say like to kind of speak up and say like, stop, like that's not okay. Like, why are you doing this? Like, are you going through something that you have to hurt someone else? So I myself, like I've had to, in moments where till this day, I people make fun of me thinking they don't realize that I'm Hispanic. So they'll speak Spanish talking bad about me. And then at first I would, like, it's just like that instinct of trying to ignore it, thinking that it's okay. And then I'm like, no, that's not okay. And I'll reach out and be like, look, I speak Spanish. I know what you're saying about me. And like, I would say like, please don't say those things, because you never know who you're talking about or who you're hurting. So, yeah.
Just want to keep us on track with time. Hilary, do you want to move to the next?
Sure. Thanks, Erica.
Sure.
And why do you think that the students believe it's okay to make fun of students from a different ethnic group from theirs? And that goes right to what you just said, Charis. There, this does happen. So why do you think that the students think it's okay to do this? Yes.
Is that a question to me?
No, it's a question, and you can answer, but it's a question to any of you. All of you.
If anybody wants to jump in, they can. I can answer too.
Vanya, go ahead.
I think that people also writing in the chat, if I'm not mistaken, but I would say that some people just look at it different. They think that someone may even be joking about someone else, but in it's gonna sound weird, but maybe in an innocent way, saying, "Oh yeah, because you speak different than us," but because that in that person's mind, they're already very much buddies because they've talked 2 times. But I guess people are very different. So, and people that make fun of other people, they just, maybe they're always at home treated that way. So for them, even it's normal. So I am, even though I've also, like Charis and a lot of people and the whole world have been made fun of, at the end of the day, I really do feel bad for those people, because they haven't had the great opportunity that I've had of having a good family that has taught me not to make fun of other people.
Yes, and Christina agrees with you, who she writes in the chat, because they've likely been in an environment that tolerates it and allows it, as opposed to the environment that you grew up in that taught you that is not, that's not something to do. Okay, Erica.
Yeah, if can I make a little tweak to the question? And
Absolutely.
What I'd like to ask then, because Christina's point about people never speaking out against it, what prevents us? What gets in the way of us standing up for others or speaking out against these situations when we see them?
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
I think for like the most part, everybody wants harmony, like in like a group setting, like a friend setting. So they don't want to say something out loud to everybody. So they might want to talk in private with somebody later on. But if they never get a chance to do that, and some people are just nervous, they just don't like confrontation. They don't like, to talk, like, I guess, to argue with people. So they just kind of get nervous and they hope other people will like eventually say it. And like another thing I want to point out is like bystander effect, like where people will see a crime going on, but they think that, oh, somebody else obviously is going to say something, so it never gets happened. So everybody's thinking of the same thing. Somebody else is obviously going to say something eventually, or like they'll see like, okay, well, people aren't really agreeing with you. They're just kind of like standing back, and hopefully you'll like get like the perceptions of everybody around you, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I think that's like multiple reasons we're talking about friendship and group settings.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just a quick sort of feedback to that is the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. It's one of the real sort of things we're working towards, such that everyone sees themselves as a member of a community where we're all responsible for creating the kind of environments that we want to live and learn in. And how do we help folks, as Christina so perfectly put, how do we help folks feel more confident? How do we help folks deal with the discomfort of the confrontation and all of those things that might be preventing you or getting in the way of you standing up and speaking out on others' behalf. So thanks for that. That was really helpful for me.
Yes. So I feel compelled to go back about a decade to the beginning of the Office of Global Learning Initiatives and the reason why our office came into being. It started in 2008 when FIU actually did a huge survey, and it was a branding survey to rebrand the perception of FIU in the community, in the region, in the nation, in the world. The survey was sent out to about 3,500 folks, from students, faculty, staff, parents, community leaders, business leaders. And among all these groups, the finding was that our greatest strength as a university was, at that time in 2008, diversity. However, when we then looked deeper and did focus groups with faculty and students and staff, we found that the diversity of the classroom was not being used in the classroom. What does this mean? It means that you, students, your experience and your feelings and your expertise was not being adequately used in the classroom within the content in your discipline, and particularly to talk about important issues and begin to solve important problems. And that's the reason why the Office of Global Learning Initiatives was started, to bridge that gap. The mission of our office is to engage all FIU students in the process of collaborating with diverse others, locally and globally, to understand and address complex issues that transcend borders of importance. And we carry out this mission by overseeing all the global learning courses that you take and you have in the curriculum, by engaging you in activities like these in which you have the opportunity to discuss these issues in a safe space without the competition of grades, and by administering programs like I know some of the Learning Medallion, the Millennium Fellowship Program, the Peace Corps Prep, and clubs like Globe Med, where you can put your global learning into action. However, we have realized that as much as we're trying to engage all of us in these issues that are important to us and have global learning for all, we still have work to do, and specifically work to do in terms of equity. So this brings us to the next part of our discussion. If you can think about a global learning or global learning courses in general that you've had or that you're taking now. And I want to ask you how, if at all, global learning courses are helping you to learn about and discuss and get involved in issues that have meaning in your life and your world.
So I might jump into that one. So I took actually, I think it was like 3 global learning courses without realizing. And I think it's the reason why I became a global learning medallion student, because it just kind of really opened my mind to different problems, so much diversity, and then how many, like there's so much resources out there to learn, to grow, not only as a student, but as a person too. So in these courses, one of them being global issues in literature, which surprised me the most because it touched a lot of those core problems. It really covered like racism. It covered problems with equality and sexuality. And it really was based off of literature, and then we were able to apply it and how it is seen in today's culture and today's society, and how to deal with that as a growing population, as growing people, as the future leaders, in our society. So it really helped us realize like how much power we do have as individuals, and then together as a group, in whether it be voting, whether it be campaigning, forming organizations in the work fields, in our personal lives, how we raise our future children to be. So it really helped us understand. And then in another global learning course, I was able to work with a group of Chinese students. And then just that difference in not only but language and culture, but there were so much similarities in kind of our mentalities and certain things, certain issues that they grew up with, that, these are people from, the other side of the world, but they were dealing with the same issues of identity, or of dealing with loss, of peer pressure, of wanting to do good in front of their parents. So we were able to, at least for myself, I was able to form a connection with these students and speak to them for long periods of time, and be able to understand that, you might, a stranger walking next to you at the supermarket, you might criticize them because of their clothes or their hairstyle or something they say, but you don't know what they're going through. They might be dealing with the same exact issues that you are, and you would never know, because someone they might not be as verbal as you, or they might not be as open, or know that there are resources for help. So it kind of made me a little more aware of, how, of what my position is. I'm also a tutor at the Writing Center at FIU. So I use these resources to help my students. I'm also a writing assistant. So a group of students, I'm there not only to help them with their writing, but I use it a lot of times to encourage them for resources at FIU. I'll have meetings with them if they have any questions or concerns. But I do feel like those courses really helped me grow a lot more, and skills that I can not only apply as a student, but in my everyday life.
Thank you so much for sharing, Charis. That we often get asked, can you do global learning in the United States, or do you have to go abroad for global learning? And you've obviously responded in a powerful way to that question. Erica?
Yeah. All right. So the next question that we have for you, in what ways has your global learning course, which Jody sort of got us on that path, right? In what ways have those courses helped you to think differently? What do you know now that you didn't know before you took your global learning course around issues of race, gender, sexual orientation, environmental sustainability, all of those social issues that we talk about? But what do you know now that you didn't know before your global learning course?
Oh, can I jump on that one?
Yes.
Oh. No, I mean, I'm sorry. I keep turning on and off the video because I have toddlers running around here like half naked. So I feel bad. But
don't feel bad. No apologies.
Okay, so I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 babies under the age of 5. So I've had my babies back to back, and I'm a strictly online student. So I was one of the kids who, my parents are Cuban, but my dad's Black, my mom's white. So I grew up in Miami. You to think it's a melting pot, so everybody should be accepting of everyone because everyone's a mutt there basically. And it turned out that the elementary school I went to was really divided. It was very segregated, which was ironic because I was born in the 90s, so you don't think it would have been that crazy still at that time. I remember that I was not accepted by the Black community. They called me Spick. And I was not accepted by the white community because they called me Spick. And then the Cubans that came from the island called me Gringa because my accent was not like theirs from the island. So I didn't have a sense of group of identity. So I carry that on. And you get older, you brush it off and you keep it moving. So when you get to university, your ideology of life changes. So I went straight from Miami to New York City. I got accepted to a prestigious musical theater university. I went there, I did a couple semesters there. My mom got sick, I had to come back. But my view of life changed drastically when I went to New York. That was the real melting pot. Same thing, you're gonna find racism everywhere. But that really opened my eyes more because I was literally blending in. I was just another mixed individual. And a lot of people were more accepting of me. The Black community, the white community, the Hispanic community. The Hispanic community, everybody had a different accent. So no one really looked at me in a different way. When I came back home, years passed, I started to have my children. When I started, I didn't do it on purpose, but I ended up taking 6 global learning courses unintentionally. And I started taking specifically anthropology classes. And a lot of my classes had to do with racism. Even here in America, a lot of stuff that had to do with South America and just the sense of slavery, and then just my culture, my history, my heritage. And I'm like, the stuff that I experienced, the way that I understood the information, digest it, I was able then, because my oldest is a 4-year-old and he just started school. We moved from Miami to Tennessee. So what my son is experiencing in pre-K is completely different from what I experienced. So I had the whole Black and white community. My son is mixed, just like I am, but I'm a little lighter than he is. And he is experiencing it the opposite. Now he's the only Cuban mixed kid in a predominantly white school. And he has the Chinese name. So he's out there completely. And the kids perceive him differently. He has a Cuban accent. He sounds like he's a ref off the boat, just like I did when I was a kid, because we spoke to him mostly in Spanish at home. So that way he had the foundation of Spanish. He confuses his letters and numbers in both languages. So his peers are doing the same thing to him that my peers did to me. And then my initial instinct is, what any mother would want to do, kick their butt or da-da-da. But then I have to calm down and then tell him, okay, this was mommy's experience at school. You cannot go down a spiral. Obviously, you have to make this age appropriate because there's only so much information he's going to digest. This is not going to last forever. But the only one you have control over is you. You are in control of your feelings and your reactions. You report everything to the teacher and you take in as much information and you move on to the next day. Because it's unfortunate that as much as we want to pass on to the children, there's other households that are still stuck in previous time periods and they cannot move forward and they're stuck. So then their children repeat the same actions. So as much as I will learn from global learning, that from these meetings that we have on Tuesdays, from my own experience as a child, from my own cultural background, anything that my husband and I have gone through, that we try to teach our children, it's difficult because then he gets his own experiences at school. So then you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I feel like that's the best that I've been able to do with the information that I was given from these courses. Okay, this is what I learned. Let me try to help you and guide you through these next few years that you're gonna have to go to school and try to navigate it. You see another child struggling, you don't copy what the other children do. You go out of your way, you help that child. You make friends with that child. And that is a little change, but hopefully that will start a chain reaction.
Lexus, yes, Lexus. Thank you so much for that incredible gift of your story, right? When someone shares something so deeply personal, it is a gift to hold that space for you and to honor and listen and hear. Melanie typed in the chat earlier the idea that often these behaviors are learned and they're long conditioned, long before we know that the information is being poured into us, it is there. And so kudos to you as a parent for taking what you are learning in your courses and applying that to life. I'm pretty sure I could speak for Hilary and Sherry and Anna as members of Global Learning. As faculty, as educators, that is like all we could hope for, is that you find value, right? Deep, meaningful value in the lessons that you learn in your courses. You'll take exams, you'll write papers, right? You'll go on, you'll get a job, but that you will be different for having had this college experience.
Of course.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Erica, for that summation. If another question that is a bit similar, and that is, I'm going to jump to this, Erica. When a global learning course has finished, what kinds of questions has that course triggered for you in these terms of collaboration and community and identity, etc.? What kinds of questions have global learning courses triggered for you? Or what do you want to know more about?
Is it for Juana? Sorry.
Say again?
Yes, Juana.
So there's two. I think there's another one. I'm not sure if you guys are referring to me.
No, I'm referring to you, yes.
Okay, because I thought it was a Joanna. Okay,
Oh, I think she froze.
Yep.
Lexa said, I guess group identity, because I also struggle with group identity. Like, I'm not like accepted like 100% in the Cuban community, but I'm also not accepted in the, the white community. You know what I mean? So it's like I have no identity. I don't know who I am. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's courses like that like would actually help me. That's what I find interesting that global learning would incorporate in the program.
Sorry, questions of identity. Thank you. Yes, Vanya.
I wanted to add to what Juana mentioned, that
I guess my perspective is a bit different. When I first came into university, I really didn't think it was a big deal having a different race and being a different culture, being from a different country. I mean, you're from a different country, you have different traditions. That's just the way it is. At the end of the day, we're all human. I mean, it just up to date. It just doesn't structure me how different it is to be white and black. I mean, it doesn't just make a difference for me and at all. I mean, it's not like I feel identified with the Hispanics. I do speak Spanish and I was born in a Hispanic country, but I don't think that makes me kind of like not eligible to practice the traditions that white people do or any other people do. Am I mistaken in some way? That's just my perspective.
Thank you for sharing that, Fania. Other questions that global learning courses have triggered for you?
I think for me, it really helped me kind of finally find like a ground where I can stand on. So my whole family's from Argentina. They all immigrated to the United States, but I'm the only American born. So I was always like, in Argentina, I'm too American. And then in the United States, I'm too Hispanic. So it was like, this is my home. I grew up here, but then I just I didn't feel like kind of like where am I from? That question always bothered me. Like, where are you from? So I didn't know what to respond, which is crazy to me. But actually with the global learning, I was able to, one of the projects I had to do was had an interview with a Chinese woman living in China. And she said she dealt with the same issue. In China, it's a tradition that you are who you grew up with. So if you grew up in a little town, that is who you are. That is your economic status, that is your educational status, that is your marital status, everything. But because she moved around a lot, she felt like she didn't have like that identity. So when people would ask her, where are you from and what part of like China are you from, she would just say, I'm from China. And so as an adult, now that she works in a position where she empowers people, she said that she struggled so much with her identity. And I was able to relate the same issue. I traveled a lot. I've been to 7 schools growing up. So I didn't know, when people would ask me, where are you from? I didn't know what to say. I didn't know, like, I didn't grow up with the same friends every time. It was always changing for me. I always struggled with, well, am I American or am I Hispanic? Am I both? Is my Spanish good enough to speak to my family? Is my English good enough to speak to my peers? And then just now as an adult, I'm able to find this kind of appreciation of my like diversity, even though it's not as wide as other people that I've met. But the fact that I do speak Spanish, I do speak English, I do have 2 different cultures mashed up together. And I'm able to embrace that and then help other students that might be struggling with that. But I feel like those courses really helped me understand that, no matter what country you're in or where you're from, you can be dealing with the same issue. And just it kind of, everybody takes their own pace in kind of understanding where you are in life and then how you're going to deal with it. Are you going to stay with that issue, or are you going to embrace it to form a new identity and then be able to move on and help others?
Yeah, thank you, Charis. That's so important, this idea that there are these essential or existential questions that we're all dealing with. Whether we're a student in Miami, Florida, or a worker in Shanghai, that there are these existential questions. Erica, for the last question.
So if you would complete this sentence, I would love it if there was a global learning course on. I would love it if there was a global learning course on. Yeah, Melanie, go ahead.
as we become a more globalized world, I think it's really important for us to know like things that are okay and not okay. So maybe like globalization and cultural appropriation type thing. I think that would be, especially that we are an international university, I think it's really important. And that's like a topic that is something that's kind of evolving more and more. You know, I think we just as a society, as future leaders and things like that, I think that would be really interesting for us to be a little bit more mindful of what we're taking, what we're using, what's in, what's not. I think having a really solid background on what cultural appropriation is, what is right and wrong, I think that would be a really great course.
I would like to take that.
I think building off of that as well, I'd like to see something specific to global issues within Miami. I think like was mentioned before, we see, you know, everyone thinks of Miami as like this place where like everything's fine and like, you know, everything's like rainbows and butterflies and like nothing happens here. And like, that's not necessarily the case. Like, especially as an education major, like seeing how school districts are set up and like, you know, segregation that still happens there, like that's a huge issue in Miami. So I'd like to see issues tackled like that, especially things like climate gentrification that's happening right now. Like that's going to impact so many of us, that, you know, is really going to be an issue. And we see it being an issue right now with gentrification happening across all of our communities.
Yeah, thank you. Another good one.
Yes. I am writing all this down, Melanie, and you said you're going to become a professor that's going to be teaching that.
Anyone else? One more? Okay. I'll toss it back to you then, Hilary.
Okay, I want to conclude by thanking you so much for sharing with us. This was incredibly helpful for us, both, and I speak for Erica and myself, and I'm sure Sherry and Anna as well, and to be making yourselves vulnerable like this and sharing your experiences is so valuable. So yeah, I just want to thank you for that.
Well, we're just really glad to have had you guys here today, and thank you all, for those of you who are willing to share with us not only your ideas but your experiences, because you are what makes us be here every Tuesday